Whether you're watching the anime or reading the manga of My Hero Academia, everyone is going to have a very different opinion when it comes to what the most meaningful fight in My Hero Academia actually is, and obviously everyone's gonna have very different reasonings as to why said moment or fight is the most meaningful. So today I thought that I would actually mention what I personally think is the most meaningful fight in My Hero Academia. Although the fight itself is not really the most important thing, without the fight this moment wouldn't have happened in the first place, which is why I'm still going to refer to it as a fight. And the fight that I'm talking about, you may have already realized this from the thumbnail, it is Deku versus Muscular. A lot of people may think this is a very strange thing to bring up simply because of the fact that, it's not really the most epic fight, to be honest. I mean, it was beautifully animated in the anime, but when you look at, the fight itself, the very choreography of the fight and all of that, it's not the best fight probably in the series. However, the reason I believe it is such a good fight or such a good moment in the series is because it is the very first time that Deku has to become someone's hero. He actually has to save Kota, the little boy that he met during the forest training camp arc. And this boy, Kota, he has no positive view on heroes and Deku, because he doesn't like the hero society ever since what happened to his parents. Now, despite that, Deku has to fight Muscular and he has to win. It is within Deku's DNA pretty much to save people. He just has this thing where he needs to fight for justice. You're gonna find characters in every series with a similar ideal. In My Hero Academia it's a bit different, of course, because the whole series kind of revolves around heroism and villainy. Deku, of course, being the main character, he's not really on the side of villainy, he's on the side of justice, and so he wants to become a hero. And this fight is the very first time when he can actually become someone's hero, despite the fact that he's not really a certified hero, he's only a hero in training. He's a hero in study, I guess you could say, because of the fact that he is studying at UA High, which is a school to become a pro hero in the world of My Hero Academia. He's in the first year, it's very early for him to become someone's hero, but despite that he does manage, because at the end of the day he does defeat Muscular and Kota acknowledges him as his hero. And Kota acknowledging him as his hero is obviously like the big thing here, because it is something that no one else in Class 1A really has. No one else in Class 1A really has the experience or the feat, should we say, to say that, oh, this person called me their hero because, I saved their life. I really changed their view on the society of heroes. The only character that can actually do that to date is Deku. And that's what makes Deku special. You could say it's kind of like cliche or, typical because he's the main character, but at the end of the day, he is the main character, so he is going to be getting the spotlight. That's just how it works. Now, one thing that I think a lot of people are gonna ask, or at least think to themselves, might be, why did I pick this fight and not All Might versus All for One, seeing as a lot of people seem to be hyping that up even more, and it is a much bigger fight when you look at the whole world. Which is true, because when you look at it that way, it is a much bigger fight because it actually affects the entire world. But the story of My Hero Academia revolves around one person. It revolves around Izuku Midoriya, and he wants to become the greatest hero, and it is kind of foreshadowed at the beginning of the story that he is going to become the world's greatest hero, or at least a great hero, if we go by what the official English translations for the manga said, but I think we can all assume it is still referring to him becoming the greatest hero at the end of the day. And that's why I really pick Muscular versus Deku over All Might versus All for One, because the story is about Izuku Midoriya, so Izuku Midoriya getting such a big feat, it's his first step towards becoming a great hero. When you think about it, becoming someone's hero is really the first thing you want to do. You want people to acknowledge you, even if it's just one person at a time, a little boy. And this boy, as I said, he didn't have a good view on the hero society, and Deku, he did in fact make Kota change his view on heroes without even trying really. All Deku was really doing was saving himself as well as Kota, because of the fact that if he didn't, Muscular would have killed both of them. them, because Muscular didn't care. He wanted to kill both of them, despite the fact that they were minors. You know, Kota's even a child, and Muscular, he was intending on killing even Kota. So yes, Deku did the right thing, and you know, as a bonus, he earned the acknowledgement of Kota, and he became Kota's hero. You know, it's not a really big thing when you look at the whole world, kind of like All Might defeating All for One was. However, if you think about who the story is about, I think Deku versus Muscular and the aftermath, you know, the conclusion of that fight had a far greater meaning than All Might versus All for One, even if All for One versus All Might may have affected the world on a much bigger scale. Okay, so I'm going to go into manga spoilers territory from this point. So if you're an anime only, well, I think you get the drill. Like, if you don't want to be spoiled, you can probably click off this video or something like that, unless you don't mind spoilers, in which case you're free to stay. But I'm just saying, you know, there's gonna be some heavy spoilers for season 4 of My Hero Academia in the second part of this video, because I need to make a comparison which is gonna completely fuck you over if you haven't read the manga or you don't want to be spoiled. So I'm doing the good thing and telling you right now. Anyway, with that said, now let's talk the manga. So although Deku saving Kota is my favorite moment in My Hero Academia, there is a moment that is very closely behind, which is Deku saving Eri. Now the reason it's not quite as high up is partially because of the fact that Deku saving Kota was his very first rescue. It was his very first time doing that, and the fact that, you know, he didn't just save Kota, he actually made him completely change his view on the society of heroes. Now, in the case of him saving Eri, firstly, it wasn't really a solo operation. He didn't do that on his own. It was actually very much a team effort. You know, Deku, he may have had the last strike, you know, he was the last player to go in on Overhaul, but there was a lot of people fighting Overhaul prior to that, which, if they didn't do that, there's no telling what would have happened in terms of Deku versus Overhaul and, you know, the rescue of Eri as a whole, because it might not have happened. So I don't really want to consider this to be one of my really big moments, simply because of the fact that, I mean, yes, it was a really good fight in the sense that it wasn't just a one-on-one, you know, it was a much harder fight than I think Muscular would have been. I think Overhaul is a much more deadly opponent because, you know, a single touch will actually kill you. And I think Eri's backstory is the worst out of the two. You know, comparing Kota and Eri, I think Eri had it a lot worse as a child, but the actual meaning behind the fight wasn't really the key point in that arc. The fight itself didn't really have as much weight as Muscular versus Deku when it came to the rescuing of someone, because the entire arc kind of centered around saving Eri, not just that fight, but the forest training camp arc didn't have to do with saving Kota. I mean, Kota wasn't like kidnapped, or wasn't being held against his will or something. That was just something that happened during that arc, and Deku had to step up. In this case, it was a very planned operation, and, you know, things went the way they did. But at the end of the day, they're very close, so I'm not like shitting on, you know, the rescue of Eri. In fact, Eri is one of my favorite characters. As far as comparing Eri to Kota, I think Eri is the better character, simply because of her backstory and the traumatic experiences she's been through, and the way Horikoshi handled her trauma after the rescue and all of that, you know, during the culture festival and stuff like that. I think that he has made Eri such a good character, whereas Kota, while he's a good character, of course, he's not really a character you could really get to know as well as you did with Eri, because of the fact that the arc with Eri was so much longer than, you know, the amount of time you got to spend with Kota and stuff like that. So that's why I would say, character-wise, like the subject in question of the rescue, Eri is the better character, but the actual rescue and the meaning behind, you know, the actual fight, I have to give that to Muscular and Deku. I mean, that's just my opinion. Obviously, yours might be different. It might be the completely opposite, and that's perfectly fine. At the end of the day, you know, all of these fights had really strong meanings behind them. You don't even have to like any of these fights. Maybe you think both of these fights are fucking useless. I don't know. Anyway, with that said, I'm gonna end the video here, so let me know what you think down below in the comments. You know, what is your opinion on what the most meaningful fight in My Hero Academia is, and I'd love to know the reasoning behind it. And as always, if you did, be sure to Detroit smash that like button if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. This has been Chaotic Plus, and remember everyone, Toga is waifu, Toga is Laifu.